Where's my rag? Where'd my rag go? Oh, there it is. Door. Right in front of me. Okay. We already tightened this up. So we should be able to just put this together as an assembly without doing anything. At least we're going to try to, because I'm lazy. Okay, we have a cluster gear right here. 1, 2. You have a third gear right here. It goes on there. We have a washer. Might resemble that one. And there's a snap ring groove right there that should be pretty close to that washer. So, looks like it's going to be pretty tight, but it should just go in there. So here's his old snap ring. You bend these up when you take them out, see it's wavy?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a new one over there to go on. And then you have a dog, which is right in front of me. They go on there, like that almost. Okay, that one I did to put on correctly. See how it says high? See on this side it doesn't say low?
Mm-hmm.
It says high. High means it goes toward high gear, which means third gear gets the part that's not high, because high gear is over there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at how these are, see how the ramp's on the back side this way? You put them on backwards, the ramp's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is you have that much less dog area under drive if you put them upside down. Because I have seen them put them backwards before. They still shift, but they will pop out of gear.
Mm-hmm.
It'll start wearing away the gear teeth, and then it doesn't work as good anymore. So make sure you put them in correctly like that. Okay, so that's how everything goes together. Oil from something. Okay, so make sure there's oil on this stuff. Again. There's a groove inside of here. It's supposed to have oil on it, so put a little oil in there. These things don't like being dry. Okay, this will not fit through the case. So this goes through the case. Then the gear goes on. The washer goes on. Don't forget the snap ring. Then the dog goes on with high. There it is. Toward high. Boom. And all that goes through that hole right there. Just slide your parts over as you go. Snap ring goes over. So you want to try to get the snap ring engaged on top of those splines. So you just pick it up, get it started, rotate it a little bit, if you can. Keep it going. See almost the spring back. Just keep expanding it over.
Mm-hmm.
If you rotate the screwdriver, it lifts up and goes over top of the spline. So you have to push it so far hard. Over. My finger was not appreciating all that pressure being held for 2 minutes. Pain is part of doing a motor. See, that's also the thing that got smushed out in the forklift, so it actually shoves it back a little bit, right?
It's realignment.
That's right. Okay, now the snap ring's laying on there, but not in the right spot. Put the gear on there like that, and you shove it in a little bit. Here, go click.
Mm-hmm.
You pull it back out a little bit. Look in there with a flashlight. If you're lucky, you'll see the snap ring is completely in there where it belongs. inside the groove. You always take a little screwdriver in there if you're not sure and try to pull it back out. And if you put pressure on the washer and it won't go over, it's probably in there where it belongs. It looks like it's in there completely. See how the camera?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks good. So now we just slide all this together. Make sure that this dog is on here, otherwise when you beat on that bushing, you try to beat this thing in the hole over here, and you'll be beating the bushing with the end of that. So make sure you're on the spline so you got plenty of room to go. Now we just tap this thing in a little bit. So make sure you're actually on the hole, not hanging down. Get a tapping tool, preferably a big one. Tap it in, make sure that's where it belongs. When you hear pop, you're there. And you saw that big wad of plastic
Yeah, that's
camera
what I fly
material
off.
come off. So make sure there's nothing else in there. Okay, so now that's all assembled. Make sure everything rotates. Third gear rotates. Main shaft would rotate if the dog wasn't in there. It rotates until the dog goes in. If you hold the transmission flat, you can rotate it without it digging in. Okay, that all appears to be working. The dog slides in the high gear, no problem. It goes in the third, no problem. See? Nice and free. Okay, so that's good. Now, early transmission, you go ahead and beat the retainer plate in there. On the late tranny, this retains the counter shaft as well as the main shaft, so we can't put it in just yet. See how it overhangs the counter shaft?
Mm-hmm.
It actually engages right there, see? That's what locks it. So we have to put this in before that can go on. So guess what we're doing next? Now I gotta figure out where that's supposed to be because I don't remember. So you take this, put it over here, find your holes. These holes are right there. So it needs to be in that relationship about right here. So I mark it on this end where it needs to be straight up and down. So we got this one down here. Mark it straight up and down here, and the hex is on top. So now when you install this, you slide in right like that, because when you put the seal in here, you don't want to be rotating it. And just make sure it goes in there like it's supposed to. So it goes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure these bushings aren't worn out. You know how loose that one is. Pretty loose. Not exactly as tight as I like it, but it'll work. Okay, we have this here. So make sure everything in here is assembled correctly. So you got a snap ring in here. It's in there, seems to be engaged. Okay, this is a dog. This can go in either way. See how it's straight cut?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter which way it goes on. So. Harley marked it so you know which way it's supposed to go. I think that's supposed to go through second. I don't remember. Don't really care. Doesn't matter. So what I do is I look for the dogs. Which one's worse? Is this side worse than this side? See how fat that one is? See how that one is? See, it's a little bit more wear on this side than this side. So I always want second gear to be the better shift. So you put the good side toward second, bad side toward low. I cheat. I don't care how it came out. I know how it's going to go together. Okay, these are captured rollers. They're in a Torrington bearing, not loose rollers like the early one is. So there's no fitting on this deal. Just a matter of making sure they rotate and assemble. This has a full floating bushing in here. You know why they have a full floating bushing?
No.
Gives you twice the bearing area for the same size. So it doesn't wear out hardly all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Before it would always wear on one surface. Now it's free to float. It wears on whatever surface it wants to wear on. So it can spin on the side of the gear, it can spin inside the shaft, either or, both. Doesn't matter. So this one's adjustable for thickness. It goes on this side, but you can't put that in until the shaft is in. There's a washer right here that's just sitting here right now. Make sure that is in there. Put it right back in the same way. Okay, that's ready to go together. That part over there is not yet. I'm gonna get all the goo off my finger because I gotta put sealer on there now. Okay. Okay, so this has to go on there like this. See our mark? I didn't check that to make sure that's 100% where it goes. I'm going to check that right now. Mark it. There it is. Okay, it's engaged right there. Pretty close to being vertical. Okay, so we have an O-ring we got to put on here. So just roll that up on there. Roll it around. Now, there might be a twist in this thing, so we got to untwist it. So you just take your fingernail, roll around this side, do the same thing on the other side, go back on this side, and that will take the twist out of the O-ring. Also, you can rotate in the groove like that a little bit. That'll get all the twist out of the O-ring. Now I deburred the surface right here. You can see the nice radius on there. Take that little sharp edge off. The original O-ring was sheared off, which is what they usually do anyway. Thought I would do that in here, didn't we? I don't see it right now, but anyway. It was square cut, it wasn't round anymore, so when it went through the hole it just sheared off the material, which is not good for sealing. You want the actual ring to compress a little bit to go in, that's what seals it. So I put sealer on here anyway. Just make sure you don't put any sealer in the bearing area because then the bearings don't work. And you will lose the transmission. That could be an issue if you cared about your transmission working more than about 50 miles.
Right.
So what I do is I take a little bit of goop. And you stick it on the groove there, work it in. Don't go in too far, obviously. Okay, I'll load it up real good. So hopefully if the O-ring's sheared, we still got sealer. Here's our edge that goes up. So I'm going to put this in there straight. We have a board around here or something. This looks like a little board right here, huh? There's the board. So this goes in the hole. Rotate that up where you want it to be. Take our cluster gear. Drop it in the hole there. Make sure all the teeth line themselves up, that way it goes in a square. There it goes. Get it going a little bit. Make sure your T's lined up. Okay. Now you have to drop this washer in there and shove the shaft through it. So easy what you do, you have to stand the transmission up. See how you can see the shaft right here?
Mm-hmm.
Slide that in there like that. Center it up so it'll go through. So you get a little pop and then it came up. Okay, right now I'm on the O-ring right now. It doesn't want to go in. Go back over here. Make sure your line's lined up. Looks good. So you try to shove it in. See, I can't push hard enough with a shocker. So you take a hammer and tap it in. See how it's sheared off the O-ring again, looks like. Over here. Take your plate. Goes in there. Push it back out a little bit so it lines up. See, it goes in there like that. These appear to have no Loctite on them. These you don't need Loctite because the plate itself is a big lock washer. But if you want to put Loctite on, you can. It's up to you. One more somewhere. So this whole plate bows and it becomes a big spring, basically. Got interruptions already.